What is up, dudes and leggedy dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we've got another deck profile for you. I wanted to go and update ZEFRAs because kind of under the radar, ZEFRAs got hit pretty roughly on our most recent ban list. We pretty much lost our two biggest, most reliable win conditions, being Untitled Zexal as well as True King of All Calamities. Those were very, very big points in the deck. As most of us know, Zephyrs have a combo that can search any single monster in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And so those were the two biggest payoff cards you could get by using that combo to search anything. And so now we need to find new win conditions, new alternate win conditions to use in the deck to hopefully still keep the deck competitive. I have some really interesting options here, and I'm even going to talk about a couple of other ones if you don't necessarily love the option I'm going for. And yeah, we'll just throw that in there at the end. Yeah, and this is also sort of a budget variant. There's a couple cards in here that are like, whatever, Ash is kind of expensive right now, whatever. But I'm not playing Pot of Prosperity, and I just want to preface this by saying, if you want to play the best version of Zephyrs, you play Prosperity. It's too good a card. This is one of the decks that can just use it so freely. Your extra is literally nothing but nice utility cards, but a lot of them, probably half of them, won't come up 80% of the time. So yeah, I'm just going to preface that. I'll talk about what I would swap Prosperity in for, because I guess this is more of a budget build. I'm not playing it here, but yeah, I think if you want to play this deck as competitively as it possibly can be, you need Prosperity. All right, so let's start off with the Zephyr package. I know most of us have probably already seen this before, but I'll just quickly touch on the Zephyr monsters here. Obviously, we have our big three Zefrath, 3 Zephyr, 3 Zefraxi. These are our best ones. Zefrath is our best starter in the deck. Zephyr is like the centerpiece of our deck. When he's summoned, he searches your entire deck. And then obviously Zefraxi, he makes something a tuner that really isn't that crazy important. You wouldn't think, at least, but it allows us to do the search any monster combo that I'll mention later. Then of course you have your utility monsters. You have Zephyr Thubin, who pops face up cards. Zefraxiton pops face down cards. Zephyr Pilica summons a Zephyr back from grave. That doesn't come up very often, but she's mainly just a level 3 with a low scale. And you have Zephyr Wendy, who adds a Zephyr from extra deck back to your hand. So they all have their place in the deck. I guess the most important thing to keep in mind here is Zefrath is usually sending Zephyr because you need to get access to Zephyr every single first turn if you can, which means he's almost always going to be a high scale. So we play more low scales, like 3 Zefraxi, 2 of him, 2 of her, and then only 1 of these because they're high scales, because you want to pair him with a low scale if you can. So definitely keep that in mind so that they can match up and then get a good pen summon off. But yeah, that's just the basics of the Zephyr monsters. There's a ton of other profiles out there. This is more of an update than a first time teaching you about Zephyr profile. All right, next up we have our cards that are searchable off of our combo, which is any monster, but yeah. 3 copies of Fairy Tale Luna, 1 copy of Godarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, and 1 copy of Gizmek Kaku, the Supreme Shining Sky Stag. Now, there may be some controversy here. You may not fully agree. Oh, I'm a little high on that, my bad. Let me bring these down. You may not fully agree that this is the best way to go about it, but I do think this is really interesting. I think in the format right now, this is pretty good, and I've just been pretty happy overall, actually, with where this package kind of has ended up. So yeah, so Luna's a very interesting card. If you don't know about Luna, when she's normal summoned, she can search any spellcaster with exactly 1850 attack. So you can actually just search another copy of herself. And then she has a quick effect where she can target any monster your opponent controls, and it bounces herself and that monster to the hand. The only discrepancy with this effect that some people don't like is your opponent can actually negate this effect by sending another copy of the same exact card from their deck or extra deck. So you try to bounce a Halqifibrax. If for some reason they play a second Halqifibrax, they can actually send the second copy, and it just negates this effect. But it's a soft once per turn, which means if you control multiple Luna, you get multiple bounces, and eventually your opponent will run out of monsters to send to protect their monsters. So you can kind of force them to go through grindable resources, and it still works out. So very cool card there. Godarla is also really cool. because it pairs really nicely with this, because it's just like you kaiju your opponent, then you can use Luna to bounce the kaiju, and then you can kaiju them again. Really cool. I also play the wind one just because of Bird Up. They set up the wind barrier statue, so it's the only kaiju you can summon on top of their stuff, so just a little extra synergy. Otherwise, you'd play Gamma Seal just because it's the smallest one. And then Gizmek Kaku. I get it, we don't have calamities anymore, but we did get a new rank 9 monster that's actually really interesting, and I think just for the sole purpose of that, I still wanted to play Kaku. It's a monster negate, it's pretty good, it negates something every turn essentially, reloads its materials, all that stuff, so yeah, I still kind of like Kaku, and in a vacuum, Kaku's not a terrible card. If anything's in the extra monster zone, yours or your opponent's, jumps on the field as a big 2750 beater, in a deck that does not have main deck like powerful cards, like Luna's now the like one of the biggest cards in the main deck, so it definitely gives us a little bit of power push for damage. It can steal a monster in the extra monster zone, but it mainly helps us get into a rank 9 if that's what we're looking for. So I like this package. I do worry that this may be maybe a few too many monsters that are kind of bricks in the deck, but I don't know. We just got to see how it goes going forward. This is obviously a preliminary deck profile, testing out the new things, and I'll talk about the other options you could swap for these later on. All right, for the hand traps, nothing too crazy. 3 Ash, 3 Gamma. That's it. If you don't know, I always preface Gamma, specifically in decks that it has amazing synergy in. So in decks where you're activating cards your opponent really wants to negate while you have no monsters on the field, Gamma's awesome. We also play Lambda, so that's also makes it better. And then Ash hits everything. So yep, nothing too crazy there. You could also potentially try and play more hand traps if you don't want to play the full Luna package and play a one of instead. So moving into the spells for the ZEFRA stuff, 3 copies of Oracle, 1 copy of Terra, 3 copies of Providence, and 1 copy of Path. This is all pretty self-explanatory actually. Oracle searches any ZEFRA monster, and also gets you your search any monster combo, because it says if any ZEFRA monster is used for a synchro summon, then you can stack any monster on top of your deck. So the idea is you make a synchro monster that draws a card, and then you make that draw chain link 1 and Oracle chain link 2. So the Oracle will stack first, then you draw. So it just searches any monster in the game. Providence is insane. It's another Rhoda, searches any card in the deck, but also has a replacement effect like Balinks. It can banish itself from grave except the turn it's sent there to protect any Zephyr cards from being destroyed. And then Zephyr Path, it's an insane floodgate. It pretty much just tells your opponent that you and them can only special summon from extra deck and from hand. So no graveyard, no special summoning from deck, no special summoning from banish zone, and no tokens at all. So very, very powerful card. A lot of decks just can't even play under this, like Eldritch. They need to actually open Eldritch himself to have any chance at outing it, and you can also negate that. So yeah, we don't care. All right, then we finish up. Oh, sorry, Called by the Grave. Cool. This is definitely a card I would drop for Prosperity. I'd probably, if you want to play Prosperity, I think you could do a couple different things. I might as well just go over that now. You could like drop Called by 1 and then play 3 Prosperity for a 42 card deck, because this is 40 on the dot. Or if you're looking for like multiple cards to drop, you could easily just drop like a Luna and a Godarla and like side Godarla, just for going second. And then just play the 3 Prosperity. Still keep it 40 cards and still be moving. Called's nice, but in any deck, especially control decks, but Prosperity is probably just better because it actually gets you to your engine more consistently. All right, then for the last cards we have our traps. Zephyr War, 2 of those, 1 Divine Strike, 1 9 Pillars. This is all pretty self-explanatory if you already know Zephyr's. They're all great. This card can activate from hand, essentially Dryden, any card. Divine Strike, Omni Negate, 9 Pillars, Omni Negate, and then you destroy your own Zephyr New, search Zephyr War, and that can still be activated. So very, very strong. The traps are what makes Zephyr's like a great control deck by themselves, why they don't have to be combined with like other archetypes. But yeah, that's the main deck, 40 cards in the main. We'll go over the extra real quick. It's kind of just like a ton of utility cards. So Stardust Charge and Crocosaur, these are your boys that draw you a card on Synchro Summon. So you make either of these with a Zephyr card while Oracle's on the field, and you can search any monster in the game. Sometimes it's Luna, sometimes it's just Ash Blossom. So that's another cool thing, is that you play any other weird hand traps, or after siding, you could side one copy of Droll. Search Droll as your main combo after siding, because you know you're playing against a deck that loses to Droll, and cool, you move. You're doing really well. One side frame Lord Zeta, one side frame Lord Omega. These are cool. I like Omega because it gives us a way to like really like consistently punish our opponent for letting us resolve Gamma on our turn. And then Zeta's fine. Like, it doesn't come up that often, but like you do have level 4s and 3s. So if you're using like Zefraxi's effect with a level 4, you can make a level 7 synchro. So I kind of want to just throw one level 7 synchro in here. So he's nice. He's kind of just like, he banishes himself and an opponent's monsters till your next standby phase as a quick effect. So it's kind of like a Farfa, but tags himself out as well. Cool card. I don't think he's that important. You could definitely swap it out for like, I don't have the Nirvana High Paladin card. I'd probably play that over this. I just don't have it yet. Not expensive or anything. I just need to pick it up. But yeah, that's another option. You have the Horus and the Sheridan play. Horus is insane because if you make it using a pendulum monster, you can force your opponent to give you control of one of their monsters. And then Sheridan can be made with okay, so Sheridan says if you're using a monster controlled by, originally owned by your opponent to make him, it counts as a level 6 no matter what. So you can just use Horus and any monster you stole from your opponent to make Sheridan. So you steal a card with Horus, make Sheridan, and then Sheridan like also sends a card they control. So really just breaks apart boards, really gives you a huge leg up in like a grind game, because you're just ripping so many resources from them all at once, and really high payoff. Would never, I don't know if I'd ever cut that. One Sacred Tree Beast Hyperiton. This is the new XZ that you're using with like Gizmek Kaku to make like get some payoff. It's a monster gate, so it can negate anything by detaching that type of material. Kind of like how Redoer bounces or sends to the top of the deck whatever he detaches, or whenever he attaches a, well, okay, sorry, I didn't word that right. Redoer gets different effects depending on the type of like material you detach. This negates a card depending on what kind of material you detach. So, but he also equips materials to himself on your turn if you send that kind of card to the graveyard. So if you use like a Providence on your turn, while Periton's already up, he'll equip it to himself. And so now he can negate a spell. So he's cool. He reloads his own materials. He negates something every turn. He's fine. He's not as strong as Calamities, but he's still a pretty cool card. All the same. All right, then for a bunch of links, Gravity Controller makes any pendulum summoned monster like annoying to out for your opponent, and gives you a potential out to a big monster in the extra monster zone. Asa, half your deck is Earth, so if she's destroyed, she searches that. She can get you an extra material by reborning something like a Zodiac, and that's still pretty cool. Maybe I should play Dryden, just so, like, because Zoo Eldritch is still pretty good, you could use Asa to revive a Zoo, overlay into Dryden, and you have a interruption. That's kind of cool. Just thought about that now. Barricade Board Blocker. He's just a generic link too, but he also gives you the ability to potentially add back Zephyr Path or Oracle, which is pretty cool. So, you know, that might be what I dropped for Dryden. One side frame Lord Lambda. This allows you to activate Gamma or Bluff Gamma, but also open up zones for bigger pen summons later on in duels. IP Masquerena gets you Disruption, Phoenix and Unicorn, all pretty basic there, just basic removal. Over the course of multiple turns, you're just going to continue to pen summon like every turn. Oh, 2 monsters, 3 monsters, 4 monsters. So you get to those, and then eventually you also get to Boral Sword, and then you just need some kind of way to kill. Like I said, like your whole deck's like pretty small, so outside of like Kaku, you don't really have beaters, other than if you're making like a Synchro or an Exceed or something. So you need a card that just gives you the potential that if you just have materials, you can convert it into OTK potential. So Boral Sword works. I think pure OTK power, I think Boral Sword's better than Access Code, and this deck also doesn't like super link like that, so you may not even have that many pops off of Access Code anyway. So yep, really cool. And that finishes it up for our deck profile. I might as well go into a couple of other options here. We'll put these up here in the top. Okay, so if you don't want to play the Fairy Tale Luna stuff, You could also look at playing stuff like our Madolche package. So the idea here is if you play like 3 Magileine and 1 Petting, you could like summon Magileine, search Petting, summon Petting, because you don't really put monsters in your graveyard unless maybe you activated Ash Blossom. And then you can make a rank 4. So the rank 4s you'd play would be like Gallant Granite, because Zephyr is randomly a rock, so you could search your best starter in the deck. Or you could just make something like a Dweller, a Baguska, whatever other like powerful rank 4s you want to play, or utility rank 4s, and this card would give you access to. So that's one of your options for sure. You also could play Cyberstein. I went really back and forth on playing Cyberstein and Luna. Pretty much you use Cyberstein to just drop out an Exterio onto the field, and Exterio can negate like infinite spells and traps essentially. The only problem is you pay 5,000, which is really scary, especially in time. This deck's not really privy to killing really quick, so if you do go into time, like you could pretty often with this deck, you are probably going to lose if you have to resolve Cyberstein. So it kind of hurts you there a little bit. I don't know. It's powerful for sure, especially if you can end Hyperiton plus the Exterio, because you have infinite spell and trap negates, a monster negate, and you probably have Divine Strike. So you have double Omni negate and infinite spell and trap negates. You probably just win. So really powerful card. Almost went with this, and this would also free up 2 more slots in the deck by dropping 3 Luna for this. And you probably drop Godarla, so you actually free up 3 slots. So if you want to just keep it clean, drop the 3 Lunas and the Godarla for this, and then the other 3 slots are Pot of Prosperity if you want to go ham like that. And the last card is Vanity's Fiend, or Majesty's Fiend, sorry. You don't want to play Vanity's Fiend because you want to be able to pen summon out and eventually get into like beaters just by pen summoning and linking up. Negating your effects is fine. You just still want to be able to spam the board like that. But yeah, this card's insane. The only thing I didn't like with this is I don't like the idea of like making Crocosaur just to add this card and then tributing the Crocosaur for him. I'm like, what is the point at that point? Like, at least if you're making Hyperiton, you're like still making use of the Crocosaur. This just feels like you're going like neg and resources. Yes, the payoff is really high, but all it takes a lot of times is like one out, I guess. Like Kaijus are becoming a little more popular with like Bird Up coming in. I don't know. I just feel like there's more outs out there. I know you're probably ending with a Divine Strike with this as well, but I don't know. I'm just iffy on it. Maybe I'll test it out and maybe it'll just blow me away and be amazing and I'll have to play it. But yeah, those are the other options I would look at for potentially swapping for the Luna package. But the Luna package is really fun right now. I've always been fond of Luna. And it's just a little more fun than playing like a Floodgate like this, or just negate every spell and trap like this. I do still like this package though, because you have a lot of versatility and rank 4s you can go into, but I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on those. I think those are your other solid options you can go with, but that's going to do it for me here today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more deck profiles from me in the future. And of course, let me know your thoughts down below. I'm just one guy trying to figure out this deck now that it has to change and go a different route to find new win conditions. Let me know your thoughts down below, what you would change about the list. I'm definitely open to new suggestions. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.